You tuned into Mid Morning Talk with me, your host Miriam Mia. And yes, I said we moving on to a note of positivity as well as this is another campaign that was many years in the making, and finally, um, in December 2020. The Competition Commission on Thursday, 10th December, issued final guidelines for competition in the South African automotive industry guidelines. And this here has been a long campaign in advocating the right to repair. So I'm joined by Chair of Right to Repair, Kate Elliott, to explain to us the reason for the campaign, and in terms of now that the guidelines have been set, what is the way forward? And for a person like me who drives a car, who owns a vehicle, what choices now do I have, and how does this campaign empower me as a motor vehicle owner? Good morning, Kate, and welcome to Salam Media.
Hi, Miriam. Thanks very much for having me. So Right to Repair is all about providing advocacy for consumer rights and choice, as well as opening up the market to independent service providers, ideally small to medium enterprises that may not have had access in the past, or providing better access to those businesses who have been struggling with the current monopolies that the manufacturers have over the automotive aftermarket. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm very familiar with this campaign because my partner and husband, I mean, he's an independent motor vehicle, has an independent motor vehicle repair center. So I know via MIMA, that's a workshop motor industry. They've been campaigning for this. I think Vishal Premnum was part of this. I'm sure you know him, and they were campaigning shoes. I know about this from about 2007. So it's has been a long process when it first came. I know Europe and Australia are quite advanced in terms of this, because when we visited Germany, there was no. So when you buy a vehicle, you buy a vehicle. That was it. There's no added motor planes that came with the vehicle, because essentially you had that choice prior. And I know South Africa spent. I mean, it was many years that you Right to Repair has been advocating this pro-choice for consumers. So tell me, in terms of this, is this now promulgated in law that every consumer has the right to choose where they'd like their vehicle serviced?
So the guidelines are guidelines. They are the way that the Competition Commission is going to interpret the Competition Act, which is the legislation that it's based on. So while they are in themselves not enforceable, they are the Competition Commission's interpretation of the Act, and that is legally enforceable. And so from the 1st of July, that is how the Competition Commission will approach any complaints in the automotive aftermarket. They will look at the guidelines, and when they will say, we've given you this guidance in the guidelines as to how the Competition Act applies to automotive industry, and then they will enforce it on that basis. So yes, from the 1st of July, they are in effect enforceable.
Okay, so Kate, if I have a vehicle and now I bought a vehicle and the motor plane and it's still under motor plane, so motor plane doesn't cover everything. It covers certain service items and certain warranty, but there are certain things that are not covered in the motor plane. So if for those repairs, if I elect to take it to an independent service center for those repairs, well then, because you get threatened by manufacturers who say, you know what, if you take it elsewhere, then essentially that guarantee or that motor plane becomes null and void. So what happens now?
So what happens now, if you're under motor plan, you should still go to that, whoever's given you the motor plan, so most likely the dealer, for your services. But as you say, if there's something else that needs to be done that's not a warranty item, you can go to an independent service provider. You obviously want to be very careful about who you choose to be your independent service provider. You want to make sure that they are a reputable mechanic and that they're going to perform their repairs or services in line with the manufacturer's specifications. And if they do so, then the manufacturer is not entitled to void the warranty. And so, yeah, you're now able to take your vehicle to another, yeah, to a service provider.
Okay. So there are many questions because manufacturers obviously they fit original equipment, manufactured parts, but then again you get many aftermarket parts that come in, and they
That's
are
correct.
to compare, yeah, and they have a comparable quality. So what happens now if it's an aftermarket part that was fitted in your car and not the original? Will this so there's so many questions. What is the manufacturer going to say that, oh, but your car hasn't been fitted in this, but you've put aftermarket? But the reason people go for aftermarket is because, especially now in post-COVID times, and that uh, funds dictate and affordability dictate, and if you can get a
100%,
good
100%. And
Mhm.
it's the same situation. They're not allowed to void the warranty. So long as they are quality parts and of, as you say, of comparable quality to the original parts, the consumer is entitled to use them. Um, However, you do need to be careful that you are using quality parts, because if it is an inferior quality part and it causes damage to another part of the vehicle, then the manufacturer will be entitled to void that part of the warranty. So once again, choose your service providers wisely and make sure that they know what they're doing, and then you should be covered.
Okay, now from the independent repair dealers, one of the disadvantages they have is dealerships, and they don't make information available especially on the newer vehicles, in terms of service and repair manuals. So it's not even a matter of going to a reputable or not reputable, but the thing is, information sharing is very limited, in terms of, especially with the new vehicles that have a huge electronic component in them with various modules and things like that. And
Yes.
now cars are being coded specifically to that car there, and that equipment only the dealerships have, only the manufacturers have at their availability. So it makes it very difficult for small independent workshops, or even medium-sized independent workshops, to survive in that, because it's not even a matter of being reputable, it's about information sharing, so that everybody is on the same level in terms of being able to then repair that vehicle. So has any ruling come in terms of manufacturers are now obliged to make manuals available, repair manuals available to independent workshops, so that they can then take the quality repairs?
Yeah, you're totally right. Cars are increasingly becoming computers on wheels. It's already been an issue that the independent service providers are unable to access this information, but it's going to become more and more of a problem going future, where cars are even in real time sending out data back to the manufacturers. And so that is part of the guidelines as well. They have mandated that the manufacturers need to provide this technical information to the service providers, as well as training and access to all sorts of things such as electronic service books, because those are also becoming electronic. The tools that they need, the diagnostic tools, all of that sort of thing. That is what is also needs to be provided by the manufacturers.
Yes, because then that bodes well, because then you equaling the playing fields. Because the argument is, if you don't come to dealership, uh, these service centers are maybe not reputable. You have to be cautious in that. But I think for the consumer, what bodes well in the past 3 years, what changed in the motor industry, especially maybe independent dealers that are not members of certain organizations that have codes of conduct, probably like the RMI or something like that, is the Consumer Protection Act that came, which empowers the consumer. So irrespective of whether you're a member of some sort of body or not, everybody who owns a business has to follow guidelines of the Consumer Protection Act. Hence, that already gives the consumer protection. And I think an added peace of mind is the introduction of the motor industry ombudsman, because it forces every service center, repair center, to comply with rules and regulations, and consumers have reprieve if they find that they didn't receive their service according to expectation, or whatever issue there is somebody to educate on their behalf. So I think this argument with regard to dropping of standards and things like that, or there is a lot of protection and mechanisms in place to ensure that does not happen. Do you agree with that? In terms of, I mean, you've been doing this campaign for many years, and the changes that have taken place in the motor industry.
That is correct. And also, independent service providers are supposed to have adequate commercial insurance so that if they do make a mistake, the consumer has protection. They can say to the service provider, hey, like you've caused this damage. Now the manufacturer is not honoring the warranty, and then the independent service provider is able to claim from insurance, and so the consumer will be protected. But as you said, there's also the ombudsman that they can approach if things go awry and they are unable to, litigate themselves, because obviously that can be quite expensive. Then they can lay a complaint with the ombudsman as well.
Yeah, I'm just, and then I'm sure, yeah, down the line is in Europe. Many countries in Europe, I think a vehicle will then be sold separately, and then motor planes will no longer be part of the package, but it will be like an optional extra. Are you foreseeing that maybe in 3 or 4 years' time, that is what's going to happen? Motor vehicles will be sold separately, and the service planes will be an added extra. Is this what you envisioned in the future?
Well, from the 1st of July, that is what it should be already. From the 1st of July, the manufacturers are obliged to unbundle the service plan from the price of the motor vehicle. So, of course, they can still offer a service plan to the consumer, but they have to say the service plan costs X and your car costs Y. And that allows the consumer to really decide whether it's worth it to purchase the service plan or not. Coupled with that, which is very important, is the fact that the manufacturer is no longer allowed to void the warranty if the consumer decides to take their vehicle to someone else for their services while the car is in warranty. This takes away that fear factor, and it allows then the consumer to say, hey, I can really shop around now for a well-priced service plan, or even decide to not have a service plan at all. Because they know what their local mechanic charges for a service, and they know that they do a good job, they can rather just pay for the vehicle as it is and then pay for their services ad hoc as they arise, as the need be.
And have you investigated in terms of, has this happened already in terms of the unbundling and a breakdown in terms of this? Has this happened already, or you yet to see this happen from major manufacturers?
So it's quite varied in the industry. It's still very early days. We haven't had any specific complaints from any of the public to say that that a manufacturer has refused to unbundle the price. We welcome comments from the public. You're welcome to contact us if this happens, because we'd like to take it up with that manufacturer. But as far as we are aware, quite a few of the manufacturers are starting to do this, but we don't know any more yet because it's early days.
And how will that process in terms of information sharing, in terms of electronic manuals and things like that? How will this process be rolled out? I'm sure manufacturers will want some sort of fee in terms of having information available, or will this be stored in a cloud and independent service centers will able to then access this? So how is that rollout going to be happening?
So that we're still figuring out. In Europe, it has been a bit of a problem in that they legislated to say that they have to provide this information, but there was no framework for kind of a unified approach to it. And so every manufacturer has approached it differently, creating a platform, maybe creating a monthly service fee that you can pay in order to access that platform, or ad hoc prices. And so currently it's just ad hoc. You've got to approach each manufacturer individually if you want that information. We are hoping to create a unified approach to this, where it's kind of a one-stop platform for all manufacturers and all service providers for all information. And that's something we are hoping to work with NAAMSA to achieve. But that's currently still in production. So in the meantime, we encourage all independent service providers to approach the OEM of the vehicles that they need the information for and take it from there. yeah, let
Yeah,
us know if you're having issues.
I was just going to ask, are you having a roundtable discussion with maybe NAMSA and MIWA and get everybody together and just decide the way forward?
Yeah, so that is definitely the plan, to try and create a platform for everyone. But in the meantime, it all depends on each manufacturer. They all are at different kind of stages of readiness. They're all supposed to be ready 100% by now, but in reality, that's not necessarily the case. And so, yeah, it all depends on which manufacturer you're needing to contact. But we are doing our best to create a unified approach to make it far more viable for everyone to actually access this information.
And they will be obliged to share that information. So that's
That is
no
correct, yeah.
debate or discussion in terms of they
No,
saying no, we can't, or it's this, or whatever excuses they are obliged to share information.
and if they're refusing to do so, please let us know or go directly to the Competition Commission and lay a complaint, because the 1st of July has come and gone and they were obliged to be ready by then.
Okay, thanks so much for this insightful, empowering discussion. And that's what we aim to do here on Salam Media, your online humanitarian platform, is to empower our consumers. And for me, the big take back for this is there's going to be good, healthy competition uh, between even the manufacturers. I see manufacturers also lowering their per service hour rates as well. Because, yes, this is healthy competition, and healthy competition means that we as consumers can exercise choice as well as make informed choices according to our budgets. So this is good news that hopefully cost of service and repairs in terms of the labor costs hopefully will come down a bit. We need some kind of reprieve, especially in these tough economic times. Thanks so much, and please our congratulations to your entire Right to Repair team. I know this is on the back of years of advocating, struggling, campaigning. So it just didn't happen overnight. But we're so proud that we have groups such as Right to Repair that actually on the side of consumers to offer us this right. So we're really proud in South Africa, in our constitutional democracy, we have dedicated advocacy groups such as Right to Repair. So please, this is a congratulations on behalf of all of us here that, you know what, your sterling work definitely paid dividends, and we're proud of you, and we salute you from everyone here at Salam Media, and I think South African consumers in general. We really, really appreciate your efforts on the Right to
Thank you so
Repair.
much, Miriam, and thanks for having me. We look forward to what happens in the future now that these regulations are in effect.
Now you have to play defensive and no more offensive in terms of defending
Exactly.
this right to repair. So you have to change that. Thanks so much, Kate, for joining us, and hopefully we can
Yeah.
chat to you in the future again. That's Kate
Yeah.
Elliott, the
Thank
chair
you.
of Right to Repair.
Thanks so much.
A pleasure. We're going to go for a short break, and then it's on to Olympics. Yes, Olympics can bind us and be that unifying factor in South Africa, which we so desperately need. All this after the break.